Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of NC-17. I'm Josh. Lisa's out doing her thing, which is always a good thing. Today we got Will with us again. How you doing, Will?
Good, how are you?
All right. So today's episode, I am going to give a viewer discretion advised right off the bat. We are going to be reviewing a Serbian film, which if you've seen it, you know. If you haven't, you don't know. So uh I'm gonna let Will start this one off because he's the guest. So what did you think of the film?
Well, I think that the film is interesting. It definitely falls in that same category of either you like extreme media or you don't. But to really understand that movie, I think that you have to understand what was going on in Serbia in 2010 when the movie was made. So after the global recession in 2008, um, the world's economy basically started tanking. Serbia's GDP, I started looking up some facts and stuff before this. Serbia's GDP was down 3.5 points around that time, and there was 25, about a quarter of the population was at risk for homelessness around the time that this film was made. And the most important fact that I think that people should know is that in July of 2009, there was a push to censor media in Serbia. And essentially what this film is it is a parody or a like protest against that specifically because they were trying to censor everything that was coming out of Serbia. Everything had to be kosher. It had to be, aligned with what the Serbian government wanted. And it's actually the reason that the movie was named a Serbian film, so that people would that knew about the movie would then basically think that's what Serbia was like. Now, I know that's not true, but the fact that somebody wrote this film and that somebody found people to act in this film and that they actually did proceed with acting this movie out, it is very disturbing. There's a reason that it was banned in a number of countries across the world. And it got a pretty terrible rating when it was originally shown in Serbia. Majority of the people watching the film actually walked out. Um, I also think that it's important to note the economic state of Serbia around that time. So they had just elected a new democratic leader who was basically trying to shift Serbia into a market economy, which, if you don't know what a market economy is, it's basically an economy that relies on two functions, supply and demand. Now, we're not going to make a bunch of extra stuff, but that also led to a lot of the economic downturn while they were trying to start that up around the time. And they do actually make a mention of it. So, to give you a brief synopsis of the film, a retired adult actor. His name is Milos. He plays the main character. Is him and his family. He's got a wife and he's got a son. They are struggling for money. He meets up with one of his old colleagues, and she says, "Hey, I got this film with this director that, he does some really interesting stuff. He wants you to star in it." So, judging by the fact of the economic reference that I made just a second ago, they are struggling for money. They don't have anything. They're trying to figure out how they're going to pay their bills. And his son's name is Petra. So one of the um, comments that gets made early on is Milos's wife goes to him and says, "Hey, I need money for Petra's singing lessons." Um, he basically meets up with this director, and they're filming this adult film, and it's in an abandoned orphanage, and all sorts of brutality starts happening. He's asked to do acts that are illegal. He is asked to basically unalive people. He obviously doesn't want to do that. He ends up doing it in a, drug-induced state. And I don't know. I don't want to go too far into it because I don't want to just give the entire thing away, but I mean it's very gruesome. It's very disgusting. Like I said, you really have to be a fan of, extreme cinema to want to either watch this movie, know what it is, or, even want to sit on a half-hour podcast about it.
Right. Uh, so before we get into the like some of the stuff that happened into the movie, the funny thing is you came up to me one day and was like, "Hey, have you heard of a Serbian film?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I think you were shocked that I actually heard about it.
So for what it's worth, I know that you had mentioned that you and I know each other. Josh and I actually work together.
Yes.
Um, I think that is an important fact to mention. So I see him 5 times a week, and he was in one of his previous episodes, he had mentioned somebody that had mentioned a film that he had never seen, and he really prided himself on this. Nobody can name films that I haven't seen before, and I actually, I got him on that one. I got him to actually watch the film. I'm waiting for the day you want to review that, but that one is definitely something. So yeah, I see him 5 days a week. So yeah,
All
go
right.
ahead.
But you seem, I mean, like you seem surprised that I knew, and then the fact that well, I tried showing my wife, she closed her eyes the entire time. So like I multiple times I tried getting her to watch it, she wouldn't watch it. Uh, but then like again, I had to go and refresh myself on it again. So I actually did watch it again, just on the off chance that you wanted to talk about it. I mean, I still knew some, but just not all. But in reviewing it, it was like, wow, this is crazy, you know. But the first 10 minutes of this film is probably one of the most brutal scenes I've ever seen. That they don't really show, but they give you the mindset of. Can I get what I'm saying?
Oh, and I just watched it an hour and a half ago. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, because we got to kind of tiptoe around this because you don't want to say the wrong thing. But let's just say it involved a lot of stuff that definitely would get you tossed in prison.
Yeah. Yeah, I
uh,
mean, eventually you want to be monetized one day, and having a video like this on your YouTube is not going to work if you're using those certain trigger words. So
right.
we'll avoid them at all costs.
Oh yeah. But I think that kind of a lot of people who have saw this film probably would think, okay, well, this sets the tone. But to me, it just seemed to get more and more intense as it went along. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%.
You know, it's crazy because it started with a scene like that, and then it ended with a scene like that. And I'm like, first off, I'm gonna say it, Marco got what he deserved.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 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 absolutely. And when you're referring to the opening scene, you're referring to his son basically finding his one of his dad's old movies. Okay.
Yeah,
Just I want to make sure.
yeah. Because I mean, like when you're young like that and you see something like that, it's gonna fuck you up, you know. And then they tried to explain it and everything like that. I'm like, why would you attempt to explain that to your son? Just say, hey, this was an accident, whatever. But yeah, it just kept getting more and more crazy and outlandish. On just the every scene was different and more brutal than a scene previous to that.
One of the things that I do like that a Serbian film does is obviously his first day of shooting is pretty tame. He's basically just walking into the orphanage. Um, that's essentially the first day is him just walking into the orphanage. And then the second day is when, it starts to kind of pick up a little bit. He starts getting engaged with some of the other actresses that are there. Um, but then, he cuts off the second day of shooting when he notices there's a girl there watching these acts happening. And he goes, I'm not doing this or whatever, and then he goes home or whatever. Um, what I think is interesting is because the next day he goes directly to the director and he says, "You know what? I'm out. I'm done. I don't want anything to do with this. Y'all are fucking crazy. I'm not getting involved in this. I'm not doing stuff around kids." That's when he shows Milos the scene of, the birth. And then he basically just blacks out. He starts driving home and then he's just done.
Yeah,
In while he's driving home, the radio announces that like, hey, it's May 18th. And then he wakes up not thinking that anything happened, like it's just the next day, and he looks over and it's May 22nd. and you're like, what the hell happened? He's all bloody, he's all messed up, and the way that he finds out what happens is he gets the video camera and he starts reliving what happened through the film that he was shot, like that was shot of him in the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I will say, the deathbed, that we'll call it that, the deathbed scene, we'll call it that. I mean, when he was watching that, and when that was happening, it was, let's just say, not for the faint of heart, and yeah, it get that scene kind of that was all the way up until my wife watched, and then she stopped.
Well, the majority of the movie, to be fair, is up until that point is pretty tame.
Yeah.
It's not up until that exact scene happens, and I know what you're talking about, and I don't even want to attempt to describe it. But up until where that girl is unalived while, they're filming that scene, it's pretty mellow. It's kind of like, like because I mean that's like halfway through the movie. So you're like,
Yeah.
is this really as bad as I thought it was? And then it goes from 0 to 100 instantly. And I I don't man, I just it's even though I've seen it, even though I know what's gonna happen, it's a tough watch. It really
Oh yeah.
is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, for I think for the longest time it was banned here in America for, well, I think until last year or the year before, maybe even this year. But
Yeah, it was 2023. It was last year. I
eh,
looked it up.
but when I found it at Disc Replay and said, "Hey, they had this," it was an instant. Yep, I need that.
Yeah.
But that scene, no one knew heads were going to roll. I mean, so, but it was. It, I know you like what I just did there, but
Yeah, yeah, I do. I do.
but in a way, because of the way that she was treating her daughter, I mean, yeah, you don't deserve that, but you don't deserve to just not have anything said or done, if that makes sense. But yeah, like you said, the first little bit of the movie, to me, like, that's what got my wife to watch all the way up to that scene. She was like, "Oh, this is an art house film. Okay, cool." I was like, "No, you're about to get really like
Yeah.
you're yeah, you ain't gonna watch it." And then after that scene, like, it just, the alley scene. I mean, like, when you're on, stuff like that, you don't know what you're doing. So, then the bald guy just gets out and does whatever he does to both those people. I'm like, they really wanted this man to continue doing this. And to me, it was kind of like they were they were filming something for themselves, but they were kind of like fucking his brain up the entire time.
No, what? No, 100%. And I'm sorry, you got.
Uh,
Um. So like it was that was just the entire movie though. It was everything about the movie. It was like literally and figuratively. That's what they were doing. But he says, "Hey, I don't want to act in your movie. I don't want anything." Okay, my cat's getting mad. I'm sorry. Um, I don't want anything to do with your movie. I don't want to be involved in this movie. I don't want, I'm not partaking in this. I'm not doing this. And they just essentially say like, "Hey, listen, bro, you signed a contract. We're just gonna drug you and make you do it anyway." So like, not that it would have been any better either way, but I mean, it just the movie's terrible. Like everything that happens in it is just absolutely disgusting from every which way. It's not there's not a single scene that I can look at that movie and be like, "Oh, well, I kind of see where they were going." Like I get that it was a protest, but like come on, guys. Like we're going this far. And the fact that this right here was $120 from Disc Replay is insane. It's insane.
oh
This
yeah,
movie was $120. It's probably 200 or 300 bucks on eBay.
yeah,
And I
it's
remember the
expensive.
night because you and I had talked about it, and you had texted me and said, "Hey, they have it out in disc replay by my house." And I was like, dude, I'll 100% take it. And you're like $125. And I was like, $125. Damn. I
uh,
wanted it though, because it was the same thing that I said to you about when we were talking last time. I think it was actually like last week when we were talking about Silo, right? I'm a fan of like movies and media that just kind of really pushes the envelope, right? Let's see how far we can go. But the same way that I feel about Solo is the same way that I feel about this film. If you actually look at what was going on in that country, in that culture around the time the film was made, it makes sense of why it exists because both of those films are the same in their own right. They're
oh yeah,
both protest films to the government and the way they were handling, civilian situations around that time. And like I said, that was only 14, now like 15 years ago in Serbia.
yeah. Uh, let's go to the scene with the lady and her teeth. Like, is that one of the most fucked up things that can happen to somebody?
You talking about how she died?
Yeah.
Or yeah, like so I'm sorry.
No, you're
Um
good.
so yeah, I mean it's when you think about but you also have to look at because there's layers to this movie. So why she got herself into that situation, it started at the very beginning. The second that she invited Milos to come and be in this movie, to star in this movie. I mean, knowing that he wasn't going to be a fan of the type of content that this director did, she was kind of signing her own, you know, warrant.
Yeah,
Um, so that only happened because she said, like, you know what, forget you. Your movie's messed up. I don't want anything to do with it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. We're both getting out of here because at that time when she was captured, she he was Milos was drugged. Like he
yeah.
was completely out of his mind. So, she's chained up. They rip all of her teeth out, and then she's essentially suffocated. So, uh, is it messed up? I mean, it's probably the worst, if not the second worst in that movie.
Oh, yeah. Uh, I know that when I was watching it the first time, I was like, all right, I can sit through blood and gore, I can sit through everything, but this movie was kind of every reel after that, deathbed scene just kind of like made me like, what the fuck am I doing to my life? you
Yeah. No,
but
I mean, there's a
okay,
reason that up until like a year ago, the only way that you were finding that movie or getting that movie was through either really high price from a seller overseas or it was torrenting it. Was the only way you were watching that movie. Again, there's a website you can go to watch these movies. I'm not saying the name of it. I'm sure you can do a Google search and figure it out. But I mean, it's not. There's a reason that people don't like this movie. There's a reason that it was banned. I mean, I don't know what else to say, and we haven't even
yeah,
gotten to arguably the worst part of the movie yet.
that's true. Yeah, I'm so with this kind of movie. I mean, like it does tackle different circumstances in everyday life that people are doing all over the world. Not even just I mean, not everything, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Toward the end of the movie, I think that's where it really went off the rails and went into like this is borderline, like just why? Yeah,
The one thing I do like about this movie though is that you can clearly tell that the appendages are fake.
yeah,
Like you can clearly tell that this is fake stuff. You
yeah.
can clearly tell that it's not real. The end of the movie, I think, is probably, oh man. So we haven't touched on the fact that his brother, who is a cop, is
Corrupt cop. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, a corrupt cop is absolutely obsessed with his wife,
yes.
which makes sense leading up into, well, kind of, not really, but it makes sense why he's there in the end scene. So I don't know. I'm scared to try to describe it because I don't want to get your Your movie instantly banned. I'm gonna let you describe it, and I'll just give you my thoughts afterwards.
Uh, so toward the end of the movie, we'll just say that the entire family is involved, but they don't like Milos doesn't know what's going on because he's under the influence, and so they take him into this room in this warehouse, and he just does what he does, but doesn't realize who he's doing it to. And then a man with a mask over his head comes up and starts doing the same thing. That man turns out to be Marco, which is his brother, and then his Milos's wife is, like exposed as being one of the people under there. We're not going to tell you who the other person was. Use your imagination. I'm pretty sure you can. But after Milos realizes this, that's where it really gets more like he finally realizes what's going on, and he does what he does. But he this time he takes it out on the people who are forcing him to do what he does. That's the best way I can explain it because I don't want to get banned. But I will say Marco, like I said earlier, does get what he deserved. Uh, the director, I had to say though, the one who got it the worst was the bald headed dude.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty fucked up scene, but uh, yeah, the graphicness of the last scene was just off the wall, batshit crazy, and the fact that they filmed this and like they did this. I mean, I'm not gonna say my hats off to them because you gotta have a sick fuck mind to do that. But again, I get it. Yeah, so that's how I'm gonna explain it because I'm gonna keep it tame. But what are your thoughts on the ending?
Um, from what you just described, or the ending after that?
Uh, what I just described, and then I actually want to touch up on the last little bit after the family got back home. After we talk about what I just described.
Um, I mean, again, I could go into very graphic detail about what exactly happens in that end scene. Um, I won't. I think you did a really good job covering it. I think it is a bigger twist than The Sixth Sense. I think it is a bigger twist than Darth Vader. I mean, it is not something that I expected to see, but when I saw it, I wasn't necessarily surprised. Um, Judging by the cadence that this entire film took, um, I was absolutely disgusted, but not surprised. So, just to say the least, the bald-headed guy got exactly what he deserved, and I'm happy he went out that way.
Oh
So,
yeah,
for what it's worth,
he got the point.
yeah, he did, he did.
uh, I will say though, like I can't, in good conscience, rate this movie from 1 to 10 just because this isn't a category by itself. If that makes sense, this and Sallow, those two movies can never be like, in my opinion, I can't rate them. I'll feel disgusted rating them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that if you want to rate this film, I think it makes more sense to try to rate it from what they were actually trying to do. If you rate it as in it was basically a protest to the Serbian government at the time, and their ban on media and other things that were going on in the country around 2010, 2009, I think it did a good job. I think it did a good job to explain why we don't need censorship and why, people should be able to make the type of movies that they want to do. As far as it being a film, the film was fucking terrible. It was not something, again, much like Salo, if we ever decide to do a discussion about Salo. I don't know how many more people that are into super fucked up movies like me and you, but I would be down to do that one day if you ever want to. But
Oh, we
Much
will.
like Salo, it is a movie that I'll watch. I think I've seen it twice, two or three
Yeah.
times max. Probably won't watch it again for another 10 years when it randomly comes up again. But again, same way I feel about that film. I'm happy I own it. I think it's a good staple to have because it really shows, what other countries are willing to do in their film and in their media is it makes an interesting statement to the United States.
All right. Uh, so let's go to the ending when the family got home. I think the way that the Milos and his wife kind of came to the conclusion of how they thought it should end in a way that was kind of like a poetic justice kind of way, if at least in my opinion.
It was a Romeo and Juliet situation. It
Yeah,
100% was. It's the best way to describe it. Romeo and Juliet plus the kid. There you go.
yeah,
But yeah, it was just the the fact that Milos and his family had been through so much. They had been through so much trauma. It just it goes to show what actual victims of SA feel and how they value their life past that point. And I think because it wasn't just the other people, it was Milo's too, because there were scenes where it was happening to him too.
oh yeah,
But it wasn't it's just once you get down to that point where you feel like you've been so violated, you feel like there's only one way out. And the fact that it happened together in a bed at the same time, it was kind of a charismatic ending, I
yeah,
guess. What pissed me off though is that when and that everything that happened, they had all been unalive for probably 2, 3 days at this point, maybe even not that long. But the end scene is essentially they cut off, and there's two cameramen and a brand new director.
yes,
It kind of signifies that no matter what happened, Milos wasn't getting out of this. His family wasn't getting out of this. This was the only ending that they would ever come to.
oh
And the
yeah,
fact that he took that into his own hands and did it at his own time, it was nice. However, the ending sentence of that movie just makes me never want to watch that movie again. Because
agreed.
the new director looks right at one of the bodyguards and says, "Good, start with the little one."
Yeah,
Absolutely revolting. It's just, like I said, this is not a horror movie type thing. It is just disgusting cinema that nobody should ever watch.
agreed. We got a little bit of time left, so I actually want to bring up another movie real quick that I know you're gonna want to review, and it's a very good movie, but it's another kind of like really fucked up movie. If you want to, because we you already said you'll do Sallow, so we'll do Sallow one day. But if you want, we'll do Martyrs.
Martyrs is top five for me.
Yes.
I absolutely love Martyrs. You have to watch the French version. Um, I think that film is a perfect 10 out of 10.
All right.
Um, I cannot say enough good things about that movie. Um, I love the way that it starts. I love the way that it ends. I love the journey that it goes on, and I think it's perfect.
All right. So we'll do a full fledged episode on that one at some point if you want to. Uh, so with a Serbian film, I know that there are certain people out there outside of me and you that enjoy this movie, and I know one person in particular that watches this movie on a regular basis. And this is also the same person that watches Two Girls One CUP, if you get what I'm saying. That person asked me multiple times if I would do a review on this movie with him, and I refused to ever because I know that he would have took it in a different direction, and he would have got me banned. So but I want to thank you, and I respect the fact that we were able to do the show in a respectful manner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you want me to just give a disclaimer to your entire audience, never watch this movie. Don't sort it out. And anybody who enjoys watching this is mentally ill.
Exactly. uh so back let's go on a little bit of, because we got 9 minutes left. Let's go on a
Okay.
little bit of like back then when the, because you said you looked up some information about it. Was there any other information that you can share that for the audience that they might not know?
I really when I was looking it up, I was just looking at like the economic state at the time and basically saying obviously coming out of the '08 recession and the impact that that had on the entire world, it definitely influenced this movie. I thought that that maybe would have been a driving factor. Come to find out, the more and more I looked into it, the director's just a sick fuck. So apparently he had been wanting to make a movie like this for years and used the excuse that Serbia was trying to um, basically censor media as a reason to put out arguably one of the most fucked up films of this century.
Uh,
Um, I I I started looking it up. I mean, if you look the director up, if you look, I mean, a quick Google search, there's a million videos on YouTube of people reviewing this movie that will definitely go more in depth than you and I have. But I think that if you were genuinely curious about watching this movie, don't be. But I don't, as much as I'd love to say that I'll buy the director's cop out of, well, the political and economic issues of the time in Serbia, kind of led to the making of this film. You're full of shit, dude. You're just a sick fuck. I mean,
yes.
that's what it was. I mean, not that I don't really know anything about the quality of life in Serbia or, what it's like actually living there, but the reason this was named a Serbian film was though so that people would associate Serbia in a negative light. And when they think of it, they think of this film. And unfortunately for them, this is not a movie that, you go around on Christmas morning that you give to your kid and, you guys all watch it as a family. Like if you watch this movie, you have an idea of what it's about. If you watch this movie, you like, intense, extreme movies, ones that really will push the edge. And I I don't know. I think it's good in its own right. I think that, it's good for the, political statement that they're trying to make, but the film, it's fucking terrible, dude.
Uh, yeah. The This is definitely something that if we talk about at work, people will give us a look like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But
Yeah.
so here's a good question: This or Sallow, in your opinion, both fucked up, both deranged movies. Which one would you say you're more comfortable watching?
More comfortable watching?
See, that's a loaded question.
Which one of the movies am I more comfortable watching?
Well, not more comfortable.
Okay.
Which one do you prefer over the other? There we go.
If I had to pick one or the other,
Yeah.
shit, dude. I mean, that is.
Again, a loaded question.
All right, I'll turn it back on you. What would you pick?
I would go more toward. I wasn't expecting that.
Exactly. How's it feel to get put on the spot?
I'd say probably a Serbian film, just because it, like, you only get half the movie that's really fucked up. With Sallow, you get the entire movie's fucked up.
So, ironically enough, I was going to say something very similar. Um, I almost get violently ill every time I watch Solo. I cannot watch that movie while I eat. I cannot watch that movie while I'm doing anything because my body will immediately reject it because it's that movie is just disgusting. The one thing that I will give a Serbian film, the content that they have in this movie is terrible. The ideas that they have in this movie are terrible, but you can very clearly tell it's fake.
Yes.
That is the one thing I like. Salo, you can't.
Oh yeah.
That's the issue that I have. And Salo is just so absolutely just like gut churning that it is a tough Salo is a very tough watch. Now if
Yeah.
they like were gonna do like a showing in like like a theater showing one day, that might be the next time I watch Salo. Just to be completely honest with you. Like
Uh,
if some movie theater was showing this along with the guy's other films or something, I might go see it. But outside of that, I got the DVD. I'll never watch it again.
uh.
Unless you want to review it.
Oh, we'll review it, but side note, NC-17 will never show neither one of these movies at a theater. uh yeah, no. But yeah, we got about 3 minutes left. So we're gonna end it here soon. I want to thank you, Will, for coming on again.
Of course.
And I'm sure, like I said before, the people who enjoyed the first time you were on will enjoy this time.
Well,
Yeah.
happy to be here.
Oh yeah. And look forward to future episodes where we do a review for Salo and Martyrs. And I think for Martyrs, I will actually have it on the big screen. So, but I have to mute it. So then people can see some of what's going on. These two movies I'll never put on a screen.
No, no, Martyrs, and it would actually make me really sad that I'd want another copy of it because I don't want to open the one that I have. I want to leave it sealed because I love that movie so much. I might go to that website and watch it, to be honest with you. But like I said, dude, I love Martyrs. 10 out of 10. Absolutely phenomenal movie. I highly recommend that to people that like movies that are just out there.
Oh yeah.
So,
And I can get you another copy of
okay.
it.
If you can, I won't say no.
All right. And
I
by the
won't say
way,
no.
just so the audience knows, I'm the one, yes, my sick, fucked up self. I'm the one who got Will all these movies.
Yeah, you did. You did. We randomly started talking about it one day at work, and you asked me if I would, if I'd be interested in them, and I said absolutely. I'd love to own them. I think before you went to Motor City Nightmares, I gave you a few $100 and was like, give me anything you can give me. And he came back with a bag, like
Yeah.
just a bag of fucked up movies. It was like Christmas.
Oh, yeah. All right. So we're going to end it here. Again, Will, thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir.
Uh, we'll figure out some dates for everything and we'll let everybody know. Like, subscribe, comment, do all that good stuff that you guys want to do. Let Will know how much you guys enjoy him being on here. And until next time, stay NC-17.